and welcome to the SmackDown Preview Podcast. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture, joined by the Dadley boys of WhatCulture, Michael Hamlet and Michael Sidgwick, here to preview tonight's episode of SmackDown on Fox. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review Raw and SmackDown, but also the Wednesday night war between AEW and NXT pay-per-views. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. But as I said, I'm joined by Michael Hamlet and Michael Sidgwick. SmackDown on Fox debuts tonight. How are you looking forward to it? What a week of wrestling we've had.
I've absolutely loved every single second of it. I tweeted something to the effect yesterday. In this office, we talked about literally nothing else other than AEW NXT. It's like being back in year 8 at school where just everything was so alluring and captivating. It's been just a totally great wild ride that I'm incredibly, profoundly grateful to be a part of, to be able to cover it. And now SmackDown's going to happen and I can't be arsed. I'm kidding. It's going to be tremendous.
Not that we can expect this sort of quality every single week from both major North American companies and anything else you might fancy at the moment in wrestling. But it's been so great that there's such a variation that I think even SmackDown
I'm ready for bollocks.
In all its daft bollocks can be appreciated tonight. There was a good, healthy portion of it on Raw with a big old skate ramp of a stage. Then we got some really great wrestling that divided the fan base up in all the best ways, not the worst toxic ones. Just debate. It was like, well, my 9 out of 10 thing was the best. No, my 9 out of 10 thing was the best. Now, SmackDown again somehow feels like Raw. Huge pressure, billions of dollars on the line, but we're just here for the fun of it yet again.
Are we getting the SmackDown fist tonight?
I don't give a toss about a SmackDown fist because you can't put a pen in the SmackDown fist and ask it to book the product. It doesn't magically make it better. You wind me up and you know what you're doing with this, and I bring the SmackDown fist. It doesn't make a goddamn difference.
Let's not forget there's also the small matter of a pay-per-view on Sunday. But before that, anyway, as I said, SmackDown's debut on Fox. Let's launch straight into analysing.
It's so funny to think about the fact that if we did enter a new boom period, which Wednesday night's numbers appear to suggest we might, you could argue, well, it's because we brought the fist back. That's told you, fist, boom period. Oval Titantrons, boom period.
The biggest thing, arguably, to look forward to tonight, possibly even ahead of The Rock's return, is, of course, the WWE Championship match between Kofi Kingston and Brock Lesnar. Now, I'm going to ask you which way this is going to go. I think I know the answer from both of you. But to follow up to that, what happens with Kofi after this? But yes, how do you see that one going, first of all?
There's no point predicting who's going to win, so I might as well just do a little game. Could even put a pasty bet on this. How many minutes will it go
before Brock beats Kofi? Just
inevitably,
like an over/under thing. Should we say 5 minutes as the middle? I don't think he'll last 5.
I think he'll last 5.
Okay.
I know there's a lot on the show, and I know that the temptation might be to just destroy Kofi Kingston, but they seem to like him a great deal. I don't think it's worked, personally, but they've kind of put the effort in by WWE standards of really trying to push him as a main event proposition who's winning his matches cleanly. So I just feel like there's a bit of loyalty there, and I don't think it's dramatically effective to have Brock just kill him outright.
I'm inclined to agree with Sidgwick here. I can see them starting the match and Brock the image of Brock taking Kofi lightly, and he gets hit with an immediate trouble in paradise and does his classic sort of, oh, bloody hell, I've underestimated this thing. And then, Kofi gets a near fall, then finally gets caught in Suplex City or something like that.
It would be good.
6 minutes.
Well, you see, this is the thing, right? It'd be good to see that match. However, I think we're going to get a pared back version of the AJ, Bryan, Finn formula. And I say pared back because there is 2 hours and there's a million things to do on this show. If this was a WWE pay-per-view or an episode of Raw, you can tell that story like AJ and Bryan and Finn did over about 12, 15 minutes, the sort of premium version of that Brock Lesnar Monster Slayer story where he prevails in the end. But I just don't think they've got the time. I think once Brock's had pyro and Kofi's chucked out the pancakes, that's already sort of added 5 or 6 minutes to this segment. You've got a million legends to service. You've got a ladder match. There's so much to do. I just think they can, tidy up that story and tighten it a little bit. 5 and 6. I think that's worthy of a Coupland's pasty bet, not Greg's, because you're not sponsoring us, and Coupland's much better. So I'll go 5 with it.
We said about Raw doing well in terms of ratings when they opened with Brock Lesnar, of course. Rey Mysterio and then subsequently, of course, Brock Lesnar. Do you see this opening the show, or do you see them saving this possibly to later on, even in the main event?
I don't know. I think, according to Dave Meltzer, Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan carried that entire segment, so it didn't really make much of a difference with Brock. I think we'll probably get into it at some point, but I think there will be a bumper number consistently, regardless of how the show's formatted. I think they'll main event it. I think they'll put this in the main event.
It would be nice as a way to start this new era on Fox to end it with a wrestling match rather than just The Rock, he's coming, he's definitely coming, The Rock is coming. And it's not like an Alan Partridge, Roger Moore thing where they just get him at the last minute because he's been circling around about for half an hour. I think it would be a little bit... I say bait and switch, it's WWE. They literally did that on Monday. But I think, considering the importance of this show, it would be nice if the title, like this, they kept up the pretense that the title means something.
Very quickly, we all kind of accept Brock Lesnar is going to be WWE champion, and it's kind of not lived up to expectations having Kofi as WWE champion, it's fair to say. But what is next for him? Because that's always seems to be the issue. Whenever you take the title off one of these upper mid-card guys, let's just tell it what it is, then they often sort of go, oh, I haven't really got anything for you.
In an indictment of his reign, it's ahead of this Friday's episode. It's literally the last question on my mind. They've done a solid job. It just simply hasn't connected, possibly because he's just not talented enough for what is an incredibly complex role that I think a lot of fantasy bookers just do not, and I include myself among them, don't really give the respect it deserves. I don't really care about Kofi Kingston at this point. I would, however, like to see him enter a really spirited, like last-ditch performance to just put a nice little bookend on this title reign, because it started with an amazing, emotive match to sort of end and obscure the legacy of the reign. I wouldn't mind that at all. I really hope they reward 10 years as opposed to however many months it's been.
Yeah, bookends go a long way for these sort of reigns, don't they? Like, I posed this exact question to Chris Jericho at the end of AEW Dynamite, and he gave me that shrug, because I just can't find a way to care anymore about Kofi Kingston. I will say, however, though, that the New Day were just fine before WrestleMania, so that sounds like an indictment of back you go to your tag team, but it's the New Day. They're awesome, and Kofi Kingston back as a part of the New Day, with like enhanced by the virtue of his title reign, is no bad thing for any of them. I don't think so. It's not like a punishment that it might be for the tag wrestlers to go back in the tag division.
I don't want to see a New Day split.
No.
If that's been mooted. I just really enjoy them as a mid-card act, and their tireless work trying to do something with the tag team titles is commendable and really entertaining. So more of the same.
It sounds hair ruffling, doesn't it, when you say like, oh, you know, good on the New Day for like trying to get over in the mid-card, but they're a different breed to the boring WWE mid. They're like legitimately over, sell loads of merchandise, wouldn't have been together as long as they've been unless like clearly the company backed them, fans love them. So I think they're different gravy compared to like some of the floating mid-carders that just bounce from programs. People do care.
Now, one of the biggest headlines, of course, heading into SmackDown's debut on Fox is the return of The Rock. What do you see him doing? And more importantly than that, arguably, do you see something going down with Randy Orton here? Because he's been teasing it. Randy Orton's been suggesting a match between the two of them for next year's WrestleMania. So how do you see it going tonight?
If Randy Orton versus The Rock is happening at WrestleMania 36, then to quote The Rock in the year 2000, WrestleMania is going to absolutely suck. I will not watch that match.
Inexplicable.
I will just not watch it.
Orton's pretty smart, isn't he? Because he knows that like he's a guy that WWE could believably think, yeah, I could see that on a poster. He's probably working it for himself at the moment. I had something all in mind for The Rock, but this might throw all that out if like Vince likes the idea of it. To me, it seemed to make sense that... So it's Roman in a singles match, isn't it? On this card.
Roman's got Eric Rowan tonight.
So Daniel Bryan could be beaten up backstage, which allows us to question his loyalties ahead of Sunday, and then The Rock makes the save. Only this time when he saves Roman Reigns, they actually get a pop together, and it undoes that awful 2015 moment, you know, like where the two of them are in the ring, just getting booed. The Rock coming, rather than just coming down and rubbing his arms and talk about goosebumps, if it's been so much fun when you've seen the likes of The Undertaker just briefly woven into the storylines, Steve Austin's son and AJ Styles, it'd be much nicer if The Rock actually got to interact with Harper and Rowan before he did his spiel, finally I've come back home. Like, it'd be nice just for... I was mocking that.
No,
you know, like just,
absolutely not.
I'd prefer that. It's good. There's a little bit of a link between them from WrestleMania 32. You know, there's bits there.
I like that idea.
I don't care who The Rock faces at WrestleMania. I will watch it. I love him. I think
I
it's
would
fantastic.
watch literally any other match at this point in the world other than a Randy Orton singles match.
All this talk of WrestleMania hype has kind of got me thinking about, we talked about this the other day, Cedric. I would like The Rock to come back and say he's going to be around for something. I almost don't want this to be a Fox ratings one-off, like a little tease that... It's unlikely, very unlikely, that if he would say, like, maybe I'll be at Hell in a Cell. and just leave that there. Or maybe I'll be able to, or something happens that results in him having to come back to SmackDown next week because they've tied him up for 2 weeks instead of one. Just the idea that it's just not a Raw reunion appearance because they need him this week would be quite cute and would really help them because they're going to need next week's viewing figures to be as good as this week's.
Putting aside your opinions on this and knowing what you know about WWE, can you see The Rock's appearance being bookended with an RKO?
No, I think Orton's just taking the piss, just like he does in his matches for 20 minutes. I think if you will see The Rock return to a WWE ring, surely knowing everything we know about how Hollywood studios just don't want him to do it at all, surely it's Roman Reigns. That's the destination. Just Randy Orton, man. You told me on a previous podcast that you've got no interest in seeing Randy Orton wrestle ever again. Now suddenly
I said no. I said you should never ever put him in the title picture ever again. And I admit, I've despised his matches recently. But there is an exception with everything, and that is The Rock.
I'm not just being a dick. He's been on my screen for 17 years. 19 years? From 2002. 19 years of Randy Orton. That's too long for any pro wrestler.
I don't care. If they're in the sphere of The Rock, it could be absolutely anyone for me.
Went really well for Rusev and Lana, so no reason why.
He's been around longer than Luchasaurus, Randy Orton.
Let's move on and talk about the Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon ladder match that is set for tonight. Of course, the sort of loser gets fired or Kevin Owens stays fired, whatever. How do you see that one going?
Well, I asked just this morning, what are they actually going to reach for? Is it a briefcase with a contract in? Is it a clipboard? Is it a P45? What is Elias going to be lifting up with his fishing rod, just like in 1999, to try to result in this going to finish in order to get a Hell in a Cell match? I think this is WWE having the cake and eating it too. This is a good match to promote for this SmackDown show. They can actually deliver a quality match. Big bumps, big painful bumps where Kevin Owens finally looks like he's going to get his redemption. The case, whatever it is, gets raised up into the crowd, but this time we find out who it is. There is a culprit this time rather than it just being nobody for 20 years. We await, and then all of a sudden they're set for Hell in a Cell. You get the benefit of them having a. Was that Shane? We get the benefit of that Hell in a Cell rematch that seemed so easy to book. They've had this before, and now they just flip the roles and do it again. And there's currently only 2 cell matches, and they can sometimes get away with 3. I think why not? Why not just enhance the pay-per-view when it needs it as well.
3 matches,
as far as I know. How do you see them rolling this over to Hell in a Cell or definitive conclusion tonight?
I hope it's a definitive conclusion, for Christ's sake. It's Shane McMahon. I couldn't give a toss about him. The storyline's been rotten. He's getting people under, not over, and he's been trying to do that with so many performances this year that it's just created like a sense of nihilism around the product. I am, however, pretty excited about this match because it's a ladder match. Shane McMahon's probably going to hurt himself and it's going to look great. And because of the tight formatting required for this show, his hideous, optimistically tough guy brawling act, that's going to have to get tempered. That really is going to have to get tempered because there's too much other exciting stuff on the show. So, a 10-minute wild stunt show, why the hell not?
It's a theme for this show, and it plays into how Shane always has to pull his top down. There is no place for flab on this edition of SmackDown. So, yeah, they can't really indulge. Owens used to have these crazy, and I'm not a huge fan of some of them, those crazy ladder wars he had in Ring of Honor that were just 5 minutes of him playing Lego with dangerous weaponry in order to do horrific bumps. I think Shane will like that, but he'll be like, right, how can we get to that quicker? Let me just set that right now. Something like that in 10 minutes would be magnificent.
Yeah, I was going to say, this will help Shane McMahon no end, the smoke and mirrors that they can bring into this, rather than a typical potato in someone in the corner match.
Aye. I mean, I just don't want it to go 15, 20 minutes when there's so much excitement going on elsewhere, which makes me think, Jesus Christ, they are going to bait and switch us. They've already done it once this week.
There's been 2. If you think about 2 shows that have done impressive ratings this week, Raw offered you a main event that didn't happen. AEW Dynamite offered you a main event that didn't happen.
Did happen.
SmackDown.
I love this already.
Was there a finish?
There was, a match that was then a handicap match.
Why wasn't he
give you a
DQ'd?
good finish?
Why wasn't he DQ'd?
Because they've built very carefully the idea
inadequate refereeing
adjacent to New Japan Pro Wrestling, which you aren't inexplicably a dick about.
Not much
with
of a sporting
red
framework.
shoes. Well, they do it in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
I just,
Oh, this is week 1. I can't wait. Picture the scene, though, boys. They brawl up the ramp. Shane McMahon jumps off the SmackDown fist. Let's move on.
They built
to
at least 3 matches in that match, which is an angle and a match, and they give you a clean finish to the match.
Oh, yeah, I spoke to Tony Khan on this, so yeah. Like ultimately, regardless of these bait and switches, millions of people have just accepted them. Regardless, several people have justified them. So it's
Because
okay.
I got the match and I got the clean finish.
It's okay to do another one. On a
And
show
Nick
like
Jackson looked great, which is better than your boy Shane McMahon.
Let's talk more about
my
SmackDown.
Pillsbury Doughboy.
There is a laundry list of legends, of course, set to appear on this show. But there's obviously
Sorry, that's my fault. I lit the fuse. I'm sorry.
Let's talk about
Let's bring the
obviously
boom as usual.
SmackDown being on Fox. How well does this have to do? Because obviously there's a lot of pressure on this TV deal. How well does this have to do for Fox to be happy with numbers, etc.?
I don't know. Not a businessman, am I? But surely, right, if you're looking through the optics of how many homes Fox is available in, and I've got several different preferred companies to WWE, but they remain the undisputed best wrestling promotion. They've done so well to make this probably such a huge deal. Like, the work's been really impressive, and I'm looking at how unpopular Raw is and the narrative about how bad it is. You're gonna have to double that rating.
So Raw did 3 and a bit for Raw Reunion, didn't it? The most ludicrously loaded Legends show there. It skews the graph for the rest of the year. It's so far and away beyond the best of the year. SmackDown's offered that, as well as main roster, as well as Fox's promotion. If it doesn't do between 3 and 4, surely that's a catastrophic disappointment.
I think 4's the big, impressive number
Yeah.
that at the same time might still be a bit, really kind of hoping for a 5 or 6 here.
Well, but
4 just has got this magical property of, we haven't hit this in years. Years.
But much like the sort of rating speculation with NXT and AEW, we don't know until it's put in front of us. Like, we don't know if fans are still willing to spend their Friday nights watching wrestling on the telly after 3 years of being on a Tuesday, and the last Friday night SmackDown not even being a ratings concern. It barely exists. It was a blip on WWE's radar for all those years. So our fans are going to be trained to this because Fox have hammered it and hammered it and hammered it. Has AEW's buzz and success from Wednesday night actually diffuse some of WWE? Like, a fan's going to be looking at the Wednesday Night War not as an NXT thing, but as a WWE thing. Are they going to be thinking, well, I don't need to bother with SmackDown because this is the hot new commodity?
At the end of the day, The Rock's on it.
The Rock is on it, and The Rock, there'll be a tangible growth because
And
of
we've
The Rock.
seen a lot of WWE stars littered throughout Fox's prime. I think Roman was on Fox and Friends possibly this week.
It doesn't make a difference.
Becky Lynch is on the posters. The draft is next week, so at the moment
She doesn't make a difference. The Rock's on the show.
Yeah.
The Rock is on the show, which they've penetrated the mainstream media with all across the States. I think 4 is the number that they're looking at, possibly as a minimum.
Is John Cena going to make an appearance tonight?
Would they have not promoted it?
No, I think he is. And I think, considering the scale and the size of the roster they've already promoted, it's great to be able to keep something in your back pocket. Much like, actually, funnily enough, talking about The Rock's last match, what they did with him at WrestleMania 32, when there was all those injured wrestlers and they'd put on all these legends doing daft stuff, and Cena made the save for The Rock. They could keep him unannounced at WrestleMania. I think they can do it again on SmackDown just for the pop, just for the big pop.
Aside from him, which legend are you most looking forward to seeing tonight?
Well, it's been years. You know what I mean? I'm sick of legends. And people think I'm a dick. I don't give a toss at this point. I've seen them so often. I've seen a special attraction type performer, right, that exists because they're a special attraction, be normalised. About 3 reunion shows this year. I'm trying to think who's entertained us the most. Is Austin on the show?
Austin's going to be
Steve
there.
Austin.
I get morbid entertainment when they've booked too many legends. So at some point, I want to see Sting having a glass of punch with Alicia Fox at a badly lit party, because it's just it's ridiculous at this point. Sidgwick's right. I get a lot more joy than you, I think, out of seeing their faces all the same. And we did talk about the other day how, assuming that Cena is on the show, this is the biggest collection of virtually every name. There's never been a point to put X, Y, and Z on the same show all together in a segment. You could have Hogan and Goldberg and Austin and Rock, the 4 ratings winners of both WCW and WWE in the 90s, all together at the same time on screen. Never had that opportunity before. You could throw John Cena in there, you could throw Triple H in there. Every single one you want, you could do it if you wished. But it's going to be Sting and Alicia Fox drinking punch at a badly lit party. The only time when you put 10 legends in a room and it's I don't want to be in that room, WWE find a way to do that on all these legends reunions.
Is there any way that they test the waters for Taker Sting? They're both going to be there.
I don't want...
Test the water infections of two very old men.
I must say, right, that the reason why I'm so cynical behind this is not because I do not profoundly respect the legacies they've carved and etched out in this industry. It's because they've been ruthlessly normalised by a desperate company, and they are ruining the appeal of guys that have got an inherent magnetic appeal. I love The Undertaker and Sting for various phases of their career. I don't want them to die, Wilbourn.
I very much want them.
You know what I mean? I just don't want them to die.
Now you said it, I'm not so keen on the WrestleMania match.
Taker wasn't that far away from becoming a dead man in Saudi Arabia.
I just don't think he can deliver, but I am up for the revival, losing the titles to the Graveyard Crows at Hell in a Cell. So let's have that instead.
Very quickly, we mentioned Reigns Rowan. You mentioned the way you thought that was going to go. Obviously, ahead of Hell in a Cell, a showdown between those two should be really good, I reckon.
What, Rowan and
Roman?
Wasn't that great at, what was the pay-per-view?
I enjoyed that.
It was good.
Clash of Champions,
It was
the
too
street
long.
fight.
It was too long. Like, you needed... Rowan isn't... Like, he's great as a tag team destroyer. He's not great as a methodical singles guy. That was reflected in the crowd heat. I did think there was enough potential in how... He's great at wrecking people, like jacking people's stuff up. If they can do that for, like, 8 minutes...
Well, they're going to fight around the giant fist.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shut up, man. It should be really good, that match, if it's not of pay-per-view length. And on this show, it can't be.
This is the night for
so you know what? I'll park my bollocks aside. Yes, I am excited about this. He's good at hurting people in small doses.
Incredibly, the thing we've left to last is a great match as well. Becky and Charlotte versus Sasha and Bayley. I love this 4 horsewomen ongoing feud.
I actually think there's going to be a little bit of New Japan booking in this match. I don't think Sasha and Becky are going to be part of it much. Off their brawl in the crowd, Charlotte pins her way into another match against Bayley at the pay-per-view. They can actually protect this match. Like, we got a real crisp quality
You heard
match.
what you've just said?
What?
You just said, I think there'll be some New Japan booking on this WWE show.
What, and then try to book some women, because that's not very New Japan-like, is it? Charlotte pins her
Very optimistic.
Charlotte pins her way into a title match, and Sasha and Becky brawl into the crowd. Again, we're treating these matches that they do kind of need to be fairly tight and fairly polished, and why waste another quality 20-minute Madison Square Garden tag match when you can deliver that again later down the line?
Yeah, what I like about this is the format surely is going to have to breed some discipline. And, you know...
2 hours is so much better than 3 for this, isn't it?
Yeah, not every match has to go 20 minutes. This is a complaint I'll levy at AEW, NXT, New Japan, all across the board. In this format of this show, which, because I've seen the legends so often, I will be cynical ahead of. I'll be popping on the night, but keep those pops just, like, consistent. Don't let us get bored of anything. And more to the point, don't let a new casual audience get bored of anything whatsoever. I'd like to see this framed as a big deal, maybe with even a couple of special entrances, and like sold big time by Michael Cole. I know he sells everything, but yeah, nice 10 minutes, like maximum, will be great.
But also, very quickly, aside from The Rock, which is kind of separate from these other legends, you know.
Oh, Rock's on a different level, unless it's against Randy Orton WrestleMania.
But in terms of the novelty, I mean. But this show should be more about the current stars, not the legends. The legends should be peppered. I realise that's wishful thinking, but that's what they should be aiming for here as they're reaching out to this new audience.
Well, no. If you look at the marketing of We're All Superstars, like, it's all legends who aren't going to be consistently featured on the show. Like, again, I just don't want to... I might have a thin credibility among some people. I don't want to say, oh, yeah, they will do this. They're just... until they do it, I will not predict that they're going to do it. I'm sorry.
People are going to have a go at AEW Stan Sidgwick for the idea that, well, hang on, the promotion you love has got Chris Jericho as its world champion. It's all about context. Like, he is in the process of elevating the others around him. He feels like a big deal when it's clear that he's not going to be on the top of that tree forever. WWE won't
His whole career is he reinvents himself every 2 years.
WWE won't let anybody else near the top of the tree. As soon as The Rock or Steve Austin or Hulk Hogan comes back, even The Fiend, even the guy they've got taking out legends, all that does is it reminds you that there's a tiered status amongst the legends, because there's the ones that The Fiend's allowed to take out, and there's the ones that mustn't be touched. So I understand the cynicism here, Rock excluded, and I just think it would be nice to think that all the legends will do will be to service the new guys, but you know, it's WWE. Like, if it was up to them, they'd probably get every guy that comes through the door tonight and say, can you work next week as well? Can you work the week after? If they could get them on like a 1-month retainer, I think they'd rather that than worry about, I don't know, pushing the revival or something like that.
I feel guilty because I've been more cynical than I expected on this podcast. And I know for a damn fine fact that Adam Wilbourn's super excited
I
about
can't
this.
wait for tonight.
This is going to be
So-
fireworks and all sorts. I love it.
I want to ask you, what is the thing you're looking most forward to?
The Rock. It's always The Rock for me. I realise that that's terrible, having said, they should push all this new talent. The Rock is my favourite wrestler of all time. I'm so excited to see him return. But the whole show, like you say, with it being just 2 hours, it should be just all the bright colours, bells and whistles. Whilst obviously, justifying the wrestling side of things, I'm looking at what we've got written down here. It's not just a WWE Championship match. It's not just probably Shane McMahon getting fired. It's not just all these legends appearing. It's all this crammed into, an hour and a half in total?
I've just worked out what's going to happen. They're going to resolve the Shane McMahon thing, and Vince McMahon's favourite song of all time. Do you know what that is?
No.
What if all the legends do that to Shane?
And wave him off.
That honestly would be pretty good.
Yeah. Well, regardless, I cannot wait for tonight. Mate, let us know your
See if
thoughts
it's going to happen.
in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and
Pretty
subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and Michael Hamflett are going to be reviewing SmackDown there tomorrow. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Watch there. Follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Follow Michael Sidgwick at
Sidgwick.
You can follow me at Adam Wilbourn. You can follow us all, as I said, at WhatCulture WWE. Right, my thanks to the Dadley Boys. Enjoy SmackDown tonight. We will see you soon.